Good evening, everyone. Gonna do a salad bowl slash chip bowl. This is for a friend of my wife's. She put pictures of a bunch of the stuff from the craft show on Facebook. And this lady picked out the one bowl that's of larger size, of course. And asked a bunch of questions and all that good stuff, and told her what she wanted. She wanted it for a present. And then she said, yeah, that one there will work. I need 5 of them. So here we go. This is normally don't necessarily work so much with dry wood. I will apologize for the probably not as good audio tonight because the dust collector will be running. This one has a pretty big crack, so I only need about half of this blank, but it has some wormholes in it and other defects that's got to go. So we'll definitely create a big mountain of chips again. But first we got to get that's good. Knock out the chips. This is definitely going to be the bottom. Those are the cracks. And the worms. And what I'm after right now is just to get some of this crap off the bottom. Not being very nice, and it's not cutting clean at all. But I'm not really concerned about the cleanliness of the cut. The crack is a bit of a concern. But I am going to use the big chuck with the big jaws, so it probably will be fine and dandy. Need a little bit smaller than that. And it is dry. Yeah, we'll just take a little bit more off of that. See how bad it'll want to vibrate or wobble when it's shucked. It shouldn't. This is sort of where these worms are at. They sort of make that sort of soft in those areas. Like I say, this thing only needs to be about 3.5 inches thereabouts. So we're going to have less than 2 inches to get rid of down there in the bottom. But it's not, it's kind of crappy wood, so that part of it. So there's no point in trying to. I had one earlier today that I actually took the time and trouble to actually chainsaw it again, just to get sort of another little usable piece out of it. We use the biggest, I shouldn't say the biggest, the bigger jaws. These are 4-inch jaws, something like that. Just so we have a good solid grip on it. For some reason it doesn't look like it's in tight right there. And we'll keep our tailstock up for a lot of this for a while, just by virtue of might as well be safe than sorry. We need a little extra support because this is not, this is chainsaw cut, and it wasn't. Can't say that it was one of my better days with the chainsaw. Not very uniformly true or anything. Also, not really used to turning on the slower end of the spectrum. Just means I have to be a little bit more patient with things. All I'm after here is just to get it flat. Now put another tenon on this side. Also looking for more defects too. I'm not quite flat yet, but this wood here has been around for quite a while. So if I slow my pace down a little bit, it'll cut cleaner. It's pretty much an unsupported bevel kind of a cut to start with. It's really more of a roughing cut than a finishing cut. I'm after the thing of getting it flat. I can go back and do a nicer cleanup cut in here just to make sure that we have what we think we have. I should mark the tenon while I'm there. We'll need to clean out a little bit of space for that. That's in good solid wood there, so it won't need to be quite as deep as what the other one was. Stuff is kind of finicky to cut. It is on the softer side of the. It's in the not really a soft maple, but it's getting pretty close to it. As you can see, it really didn't like me being overly aggressive with it. So we just sort of need a good place so the juck trowels sit up against her nice and flush. A little hard to figure out whether you've actually got it flat or not, but it looks like it should be all right. Now at this point, I'm going to make it round on the outside. Maybe not down to the final dimension, but at least round to where we can maybe get a little bit more speed out of it. And verify more of the stuff, more of the bad stuff. I actually have to go at a pretty slow pace by virtue of it's only running a little over 600 RPM, so probably good for me because it's making me be more patient than what I normally would be. Once we get it round and go back to the other side, other end, then we should be getting it closer and closer into being in balance. I'm most interested in all these. Some of these cracks are pretty good size. I don't really want to have to fill things on this. That's my intent, is not to fill anything. And so far, I've been pretty fortunate not to have to, because these blanks are thick enough that I haven't had to do anything other than turn them. This will be number 3 for the day. need to be nice and gentle when you go off the end. Knock off that razor blade. Knock off that razor blade. It feels like, no, that's a little spot down there. That doesn't matter. So that's pretty much round. So we're parallel on these two sides, and now we're round on that side. So should be in good shape. Got to get rid of this little nub down here. It could interfere at the bottom of the chuck, and we don't want to have that. It is a pretty, not really any danger of it bottoming out on the chuck jaws, but now we get to see whether we did a good job on the tenon on this side. I had one earlier today that I actually had it way out of whack. Looks like we're good tonight on this one. So ultimately we're going to shoot for about 4 inches to start with. End up at about 3.5 or so. This gives me an idea where I need to go. At this point, I will remove all that material and see where this crack is going, because it does come the whole way down into that tenon. Won't be a very straight line, but it doesn't really matter. This is kind of like just fill up contractor size garbage bag after bag today. So now we're pretty well in balance, so we got to be able to get a little bit more speed out of it. You see the puff and cloud of dust. That's them wearing tracks. They are very dusty. That's, like I say, that's why the dust collector is running. Let's see where we're at here. Most concerned about the big crack. That one may end up having to be filled. It looks like I'm going to get below the worms pretty quickly, so that's probably one of the bigger concerns. Even though we're running at a slower speed, that doesn't mean we still can't take a pretty healthy cut. It's a 5/8 inch gouge, so a pretty good idea. We're going to have to fill some of that. It does lighten up down there, but probably not enough. Main thing now is just to get rid of the junk down here that I don't want. The gouge is starting to show that it's getting dull. But I want to get through the rest of these wormholes. Because whatever they poop out seems to like to dull the tools fairly quick. And we're also getting towards center, so it's running even slower. So you see, I was very careful what I was touching. That edge has been broken. This one's not. This one's sharp. This one will cut. Oh, wonderful. That crack does stop. A little bit of worm activity there, but that should be okay. Last little bit out of here. Switch to a sharper gouge. Before I reach up there and touch it with my arm. Get rid of the tailstock for the moment. And get rid of the last little bit. A little bit of worms in there, but that should all go away. So we'll go to the smaller size tenon. Smaller jaws, same size, same chuck, same VM120. It's going to be in a smaller footprint. And for the moment, I'm going to just switch gouges. I have two of the 5/8, so I'll just switch to a sharp one. Makes me think it's sharp. Get some material out of there. We'll make our tenon, and then we can go get busy shaping it. we can bring our tailstock back into play. And not what I wanted to do. I'm going to move my tool rest. I want to get rid of some of this weight out here on the corner. Trying to get it to go up, allow me to get a little bit more speed out of it without a whole lot of vibration. Still just enough weight, enough differences in the density of the wood that it still has a vibration to it. All waste wood, might as well get rid of it as quick as we can. Down to the cracks. Cracks are getting smaller, so that's a good sign. Chips is getting bigger, of course, but I had a pile of chips earlier that I had to actually step over. We're still basically in a roughing mode. So, oops, don't do that. That's splinters. Still some of them. And you can see the difference between the bevel supported cut and unbevel supported cut. It's kind of very huge when it comes to this stuff. So we need to get down here to where we need to get down some of this removed to get our tenant. And then we can put a shape to it. We've got a little bit of that crack left. Now let's see. We might end up having to fill them. Hope not, but we're probably still a little bit deeper than what we need to be. Yeah, we are. Not that I'm really super concerned about making these all the same. Kind of just going to be a general kind of shape. Like that. It would be easier if I just put a shorter tool rest on. I can leave the tailstock up that way. It can be a little bit more aggressive. Not that I don't think I could actually rip it out of the chuck, but there's always that possibility. If I go to the 1/2 inch gouge, I can get in here pretty close. To get on the bevel. Maybe not. This wants to have a little bit of a curve outward at the top. At least that's what I've been doing with them. Let me get rid of my tailstock so that I can get everything easier. Make sure the chuck's tight. Now we can work on getting an official looking kind of a shape. And we should be in balance where we should be able to bring the speed up. At least somewhat. Not quite that much for shaking. There we go. You sort of want to be a little bit sort of flat on the bottom in a way. It won't have a square rim though. This curve is going to continue on up. Want to see whether still got a little crack there, a little crack there. And we're still about a 1/2 inch too big. So we'll just leave a little extra, sort of extra material. That'll go away at the end. I don't really feel like redoing the tenant. Just kind of being lazy. I could remove some more of that off the top too. Be just as easy. I'm more interested in getting rid of the cracks. Tiny one left. So hopefully one more cut. I think I like the shape, so if I make this cut and keep the amount of the cut pretty much the same the whole way up through, I'm going to make it curve a little bit more pronounced. That should be that. Now we definitely don't want to touch it again because now we have another razor blade edge up there. Where was my crack? It's gone, so that's good. And we can sort of make this not like such. And that will be where the bottom of the bowl is going to be. And I should be able to shear scrape that a little bit in there. We don't want to necessarily want to create more work. Like I say, this stuff is kind of finicky. I tried an actual scraper on it earlier on the one, and it's not doing. The only good thing about it is it's very soft. It sands very, very easily, so I think we're good there. Make sure my tenet's clean. And that tenet will go away. This will be the actual bottom of it. I'll probably make that into a bead. I haven't quite decided on that yet. Like I say, this is number 3. There's one actually is half finished as far as finish, as far as applying the finish goes. The other one I did, the second one I did is just turn, no sanding yet. go back to the 3-inch jaws. So end grain facing up. You give us a little bit more uniform grip. And I want to make sure we didn't. This is 11.5. We were shooting for 11, but that's fine. Like I say, they're not. As my wife puts it, they don't need to be exact copies. And like that's a good thing because I'm very poor at doing exact copies. I guess we could switch. Everything else now be from the bottom side. I'll probably stay with the 1/2-inch gouge, at least for some of this. At least for out here. We changed something, so we're going to slow down. And I don't think I have that in the chuck quite nicely. It's almost hard to tell because some of this is still that's better. Looks worse than what it was. It's the fact that this rim is not necessarily very straight. But we'll make it straight. And get rid of the razor blade. Still has a little bit of a wobble, but I'm not gonna worry with it. We'll have more of a wobble till we get done. Pretty much every one of them that I've done today did. The rest is a tad on the high side. Once you relieve the stresses in the wood, it has a tendency to move. It's always interesting while you're turning it and all of a sudden the thing, it's like it's bouncing all over the place. Just get some room to move. That's really all I'm doing is getting rid of some waste. I could be doing it with the bigger gouge too. We'll start to make our curve. And the chip mountain just keeps growing. Now we got rid of some of the weight. Go back to the smaller gouge. It can be a little bit more precise, a little gentler. So plenty thick. You just have to be careful when I reach up there to do that so I don't hit this outside edge. Don't really want these ultra thin anyhow. More utilitarian kind of a thing. And it is dry, so I'm not getting out the calipers to measure it. I'm probably still close to a half an inch right down in there. It's getting fatter as I go down. As long as we're cutting nice and cleanly, that's the important part right now. A little gentle, be nice and gentle. And the tool's getting dull as well. So I think what we'll do, I could cheat on that one. I do have one more. This is a 40-degree gouge here, which will do just fine on that. So we'll come up. So this is freshly sharpened. Hasn't been used yet. So we'll make one nice clean cut. You can see we got rid of all the little crush, basically they're crush marks because I'm pushing too hard on the bevel because the tool's getting dull. So that's that. The rest of this up here gets sanded nice and neat. I think this is dull on both sides. Might try it once. We're gonna have to go sharpen them all, which an amount to. No fun playing with dull tools. That side is actually fairly short. Chips like to pile up underneath there too. So we can bring our tool rest in a little bit. It'll help us see if we can be a little creative, and we'll just take and hone that just a little bit, just so that you don't burn through a brand new edge just removing waste material. Like a little bit of honing took care of that. I will go sharpen before we go any further though. I can take more of that out first. Which, when you're working with dry wood, good idea not to touch the tip of the tool because it has a tendency to be a little warmish. And I leave steps where I don't have to guess where to pick up the cut. I definitely thicken it up considerably down there. So we can go back to our 40-degree gouge. Because my curve is nowhere near where it needs to be. Now let's see if we're there. Pretty good. I left a ridge right here. I'm going to go back up just beyond that, make one little fine cut across there. And I should have taken care of that by the looks of it. Pretty good. Still a little bit of a little hump right there. Fade out into nothingness. Should have taken care of that. Let's go down into there. Before I touch this with my arm. Let's take a little bit of sandpaper. Slow it down a little bit to make its cut better. Right now that edge is sort of ragged because of the way I cut it. So your tendency is to reach in here and touch things while it's moving. Not always the greatest idea anyhow, but we all do it. So we only use one side of that one, so I'm going to use the other side and get rid of the little material. This gouge really does not like to do this either. So it's sort of cutting across side grain. Okay, so let's go sharpen everything up. 1, 2. I'm a firm believer in taking them out of the handles if you can. All my handles pretty much are removable. I think the chips to find a fourth one. So if I can see me, kinda. Let's go sharpen these up. Turn the dust collector off for a minute. Tired of listening to it run today. I think we were doing the, yeah. So we'll do the bigger ones first. Face shield down. Safety first. Not really too concerned about that. Grinding tools. These are CBN wheels, are not going to explode on me. So do one half, another half, run around into the nose. Take a look at it, make sure we're right. A little bit of a beak here. Get that little beak, it means we a little too quick up the nose. Little touch up, still a little bit of one there, but that's okay. That's one, the other 5/8. I use a 2-inch setback. Kind of irrelevant in a lot of ways. You can use whatever you want. A lot of people use 2-inch. There's some Doug Thompson sort of recommends 1 3/4 inches. It just means you're change things around a little bit. Just like cutting with the tools, let the grinder do the work. I'm not putting pressure against the grinder. I'm just letting it slide across there. 350 grit wheel, so it's not removing very much material. I switched jigs to do the 40-degree gouge. This is my cheater way of doing it without doing it freehand on the platform. It works for me, and that's really what counts. Am I exactly 40 degrees back on the wings? Probably not, but doesn't really. The only time it will affect it is if you get too far forward rather than too far back. Get them too far forward, it will become aggressive. Try and keep them even, but that doesn't always work. And this one, it does like a very short bevel. So I do get rid of most of the heel to where it's only about 1/8 of an inch or so of actual cutting bevel. And I probably, that one's okay. How about the big one? We're gonna take a little bit off of that. Makes the going around the corner, inside corner at the bottom. It'll make it easier. The less bevel contact, the less bruising you will do. It'll make a tighter curve. And you see the difference in the steel. That one's sort of turning brown, bluish brown because it was starting to heat it up. That's I think the silver one is brown or maybe something like that. I don't know. I had it for years, so I don't really remember what it is. So now we can get back to business. Let's use the sort of less desirable one first. See where we're at. We're good. So we just sort of proceed on down. As a chunk stays right on the tip. It starts to bounce like that. That's me trying to go too fast. Getting ahead of the tool when it's cutting. So just back off. Slow down. Take your time. It's supposed to be fun. And quit going deeper there. Sort of sounded like it was starting to get thin there. It's not, but could be it's getting thinner right down in there. That was me not paying attention to what I was doing. Let's see what. How are we doing tonight? I'm trying to mess this up. I know that. There is still a little wormhole in there. Yeah. Put the super glue finish on that. It'll make that hard, and nobody will know the difference. I'll go back to the smaller gouge. It'll be more gentle. Well, that's good. Unfortunately, that's kind of what these are. They're not my gifts, but they're for somebody to give them away as a gift. I left the hump up here. Could be challenging to go after because it's a little thinner up there. It's probably just going to have to be a little extra sanding right there. They're down to probably about 3/8 or a little bit less than through there. So the further I go up, even though I can't necessarily move it by hand, but when it's trying to be cut, it's trying to duck away. What kind of gifts are you making? We'll go back to the bigger one. We got a fair amount of lumps and bumps in this one. Holy shit, that's a list. You making turns, Snowman? I would think. Or at least I would hope you're making turns, Snowman. I'm not sure I did any good. That might, the way it sounded, it might have actually made it worse. Not really. It left some, there at least some spiral marks, so it's two. Oh, now that's cheating. That's cheating, making 3D snowmen. I saw you were just putting another 3D printer together. I assume you probably have more than one, like everybody else that has them. Two of the two of the craft shows that we did this year, there was people there with the 3D printed stuff. It's kind of interesting. Are you using any of the, I probably won't say the right name, like an iridescent filament? I think that's what they called it. Sort of color shifting, I guess you would say. They were pretty neat, I thought. The one small show that we did, there was a young couple there that was had a whole bunch of that stuff, and it was like I say, it was a small show, and not a whole lot of people actually even attended the small show. So I got to talking with them, and it was quite interesting. I can see why some of them people are definitely heavily involved in some of that because it's, after that initial investment, they're able to make a product and actually sell it fairly cheaply. because the filament's not that super expensive. It was kind of interesting to talk with them. Because it wasn't necessarily something that overly excites me, but the kids certainly liked the stuff that they were making because they were making like little dragons and all kind of that kind of stuff. Like I say, I thought they were pretty neat. I thought. Yeah, I don't remember what he color. Did he call it color shifting or something like? I don't know. I forget what he. I forget the technical name that he used for the one that it was. It reminded me of like the almost like the iridescent type paint. Better quit talking and not go so far there. Make sure we're right. This can be a little bit, definitely can be a little heavier in the bottom. The way when you put fruit in it, it won't fall over. Yeah, there was two of the shows that we did this year. There was both shows. There was people there with the 3D printed stuff. First one was at a middle school, so there was definitely more, kids of I guess middle school age or whatever, or younger that were there. So they did a they did a pretty daggone good business that day. They said that was the third or fourth show that they've done, and they were sort of having trouble keeping up with I guess, sort of keep up with the demand of it. Which is good. I mean, if you're gonna do something and like that, it's always a plus to. I definitely got educated on it, but not that I really necessarily needed to be educated on it. But it was kind of interesting to talk with them and listen to some of the stuff that they were doing and they had. I think that was the second one we talked to that he had a subscription to something or other that so that he could keep getting like the newest, latest, and greatest designs and whatnot, and he didn't have to design it. That was where it really what it really amounted to. That he didn't have to sit there and figure out how to design something. He just had the subscription or whatever that he could pay his little monthly fee to, and let somebody else do the design work, and all he had to do was download the file, and away he went. I'm kind of chasing my tail here a little bit. I got a little hump in the middle. Little Definitely not the best one of the day, but I think it's gonna be good enough. Give it a sand and see what it does there. And like I say, this stuff is pretty soft, so it does sand quite easily. No, this is sugar maple. I wish it was cherry. I had I had some cherry blanks out in the garage, or cherry half logs, and I thought I'd be able to get one or two of these out of the cherry, but as things always goes, it wasn't. Too many cracks. Too big of cracks in the wrong places, and instead of, actually it's over on the other bench. Instead of being an 11-inch bowl, yeah, it's more like about 8.5 or 9. Just to just to be able to get rid of all the cracks and crap. So we'll give it a sand. I don't think I got it all out of there yet, but just want to make sure I got the center. It is. It is. I mean, I'm working longer on Sundays. Sundays has become like about 12-hour day. Getting done in 10 the rest of the other 4 days, but we are quite busy. I think some of it in our case is the fact that it is a new building. It's one of the modern buildings that has the automatic sorting and all that, and it really hasn't been working to the capacity that it's supposed to. I think now somebody, either they got some of it straightened out or whichever, or some pencil pusher says, well, we spent, you know, close to $400 million on this project. You know, it's got to pay for itself, so we're just going to dump the work to them. But for me, I mean, I took a jockey bid for the winter, so I stay in the yard, which is a good place to be, but for the winter. But like, come tomorrow, I start at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Our unload doors is about 90. How many did they actually use? Like 90, about 93 or 94 doors on the unload. They will all be full when I get there. And our inbound lines, if it's anything like last weekend, or last Sunday, which I'm sure it will be, they will all be full. So that's another 100 plus loads sitting right there. Last Sunday they had stuff sitting everywhere. I never got a count of that. If I was to guess, I would say there was probably at least 150 to 175 loads sitting there ready to be unloaded. And they're now working, the hub is actually working 6 days a week. They work 3 shifts, Sunday through Friday, just to try and keep up with this. It's been a long time. Both 53s and pups. A lot of it right now is the long trailers, the 53-foot trailers. Because at this time of year, they'll use contractors to pull some of the stuff because we don't really have the manpower to run all the stuff that they need to run. And when they use contractors like that, they can run them to 10 hours or so in one direction, where they can't do that with us. We can run about 4.5, 5 at tops. Because we need to come home the same day. Where those contractors, they don't give a crap about them, so they'll just run them. So now they're running direct loads that would be 8, 9, 10 hours away. Which of course is the other half of the challenge. Because these guys now are in our yard. They have no clue what they're doing, where they're going. And half of them don't speak English. So it's challenging, and it will be that way till Christmas. Or at least the last week, anyhow. I haven't heard anything said anywhere. I usually hear it on the radio. I won't actually hear it at work, but they'll usually about the 16th or 17th of December is sort of the cutoff for ground. It is a circus, believe me. It is. It really makes you wonder where some of these people, truck drivers, uh, they just, I don't know, they have very limited common sense. They just come in and sort of park wherever they feel like it, and then they're trying to figure out where to go and who to talk to, and like I say, half of them don't speak English, or at least they make you think they don't speak English. Yeah, it's very much a circus. So that's our inside ready for finish. Get the dust out of there. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I don't. My wife would tell you pretty quickly that I can be very rude to the people like that claim that they can't speak English and all that. And I'm like, You know, if you can't speak English, you can't speak the language of the country you want to work in, then why are you here? Is my philosophy. That's looking pretty good. You got a couple little worm holes in the bottom, but I'm not going to worry with it. 11 and 3/8, so we were shooting for 11, so a little extra is better. So, switch some things around here. And would it be? Yeah, it's only 10 minutes to 7. That's good. So now, copy that. So we'll do this on a jam chuck. Yeah, switch chucks to do that. Pile of chips does get in the road on the floor though. So that's the inside of this one done. We'll go back to the outside. See if I can get my fumbling fingers to get it where it belongs. I left that ring mark in there, so that means that should have stayed where it belongs. Need the small tool rest. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a bead down here, probably where my pile of chips is going to get in the road. Trying to figure out why this thing has gotten tight. I think I know. I think it's digging into the washer. Yep. So we'll flip the washer around. One of these days, I guess we're going to have to break down and buy a new one of them, or just get a better bolt. Move my pile out of my road. Forward. Won't go crazy on the speed, of course. First order of business will be to straighten this foot back up. Get rid of some material. Make a bead. Into a nice tight corner, and hopefully it didn't do as well as I would have liked. So we'll have to address that a little bit. We'll do the other side of the bead. So if I do like a little bit of a shear cut coming back out, I should have taken care of that nicely. We have a little crown on top of the bead, which will sand off very easily and quickly to make it into a nice round bead. And I don't want to get rid of the tenon yet because I want to be able to finish this one, so I think that will do the trick. And we're right back to square one and sand some more. And we can go back to be able to go strictly overhead. That's where we're at. Why do I get the idea that froze? Huh? Hold on. All right. Minor technical glitch. Some of this on this down in here will get sanded by hand, the bead in the very bottom area. So we'll slow our speed down nice and slow. Bring our little dust collecty hose up here a little closer. Now I only got to sand a little bit in here up close. And the bead. And speed a little too fast. Fingers get a little warm. And we started with 180 grit paper, just so that I can get rid of that little point. We still didn't get rid of. Still have a little bit down in there. It will always be the hardest place to sand that it will decide it doesn't want to cut cleanly, which is down in that little groove. It's basically a place where that's a little bit of end grain right there. So it wanted to stand it up. So nothing says I can't sand a little bit by hand to get rid of some of that. And I think that'll be good enough. So actually down in this little area here, I will actually go through all the grits. Maybe not quite through all of them, but I'll go through quite a few of them. And then we'll go back to power sanding the outside. And then we'll put some finish on it, and this one will be ready to take a break for the rest of the week, or at least for a couple days. So I'll start, like I say, we were talking earlier, I'll start at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and probably will work till 8 o'clock tomorrow night. So, and I live about 25 minutes or so from work. So it'll be close to 9 o'clock till I get home tomorrow night, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So there won't be enough energy left in the old bones to come down here and do anything. I made good progress, so this today, a little bit yesterday, and a little bit today. Like I say, this is number 3 for the day. One of them is completely sanded and finished on the inside. I just didn't do the outside of it yet. I think that's actually a good place to stop at that. And we'll go to power sanding. That's up through 400. So now we'll go back and go back to some power. See if my sandpaper has any life left in it here. Oh, has more life if I wouldn't knock them on the floor. Velcro and turning chips just do not cooperate. Stick fast to it. Here's you get a chip right on my glasses. So now we'll go spin it in reverse. As you can see, it does a much nicer job as far as dust collection goes. But you can see, as I start to sand, you can see some of the little dips and dews that I had from my turning, even though it looked like it was nice and smooth and clean. It was cut cleanly, but it doesn't mean that it was cut perfectly smooth. So I'll inspect and make sure we have no tool marks or anything of that nature, which we don't. So now we can proceed on, and we shouldn't have to stop each grit to inspect. It's kind of an unnecessary kind of a thing, usually. I will brush off the dust each time, though. More important, damn it, knocking them on the floor. That top edge will be best sanded by hand or with sheet paper rather than to do it with a disc. I just keep breaking it back a little bit more each time, but because my fingers will allow it to bounce rather than the drill. Because it's, don't know, now you can sort of see it in the video. This is definitely, has moved tremendously up in this part anyhow. One more, we're good. Should be it for the power. Probably about ready to get new paper for that. Use our paper towel to clean everything. We know we're not quite done yet. We'll get down in that groove. So I want to sand that a little bit more. We stop short of the 800 mark in there. So I'll just get right into the very edge of it. A little bit of 600. This would actually work better if it was going the other way. And lastly, we'll use a little bit of 800 in there. Of course, the hardest place to get the dust out is down in that little groove. And we were pretty successful. Do a little random orbits, little circular motion, especially down here around here in this bottom edge where I sanded with sheet sandpaper by hand. We can do the whole thing. It certainly won't hurt anything. It'll break up any of the any kind of radial scratches that might still be there. It only takes a couple seconds to do it. We'll go around this top edge. Once again, this is 800 paper. Go around this edge, make sure it's nice and friendly to the fingers. So that is ready for some finish. Wipe the dust off my hands. And then we'll wipe this down again. It's an unusual little grain right there. Not too concerned about that. We're going to finish it with a little bit of Parfix 3408. And if that shows up, which it probably is going to, as being something that's a little less than perfectly sanded right there, it'll stiffen all them fibers up right there, and I'll be able to sand that little bit wet by hand, and you'll never know the difference. So there, get a glove, 2 paper towels, 3408, and a piece of felt. So we'll take a little piece of felt, we'll wrap it up in a paper towel. It's going to give me a little reservoir. It'll make this a little less messy, and it gives it a good place for the glue to stay. So we're going to use even though you can't read the bottle anymore, you'll have to take my word for it. This is the Parfix 3408. It's low setting CA glue. We're going to find our end grain because that's where we want to start. We're going to get lots on our pad, and we'll just swirl it around. We're looking for saturation of the wood. Not worried about getting down in that little groove at this point. I have a simpler way of trying to manipulate that little groove. We get plenty on. It's going to soak in. We're going to wipe off the excess. And we also have 40 seconds to do this, which doesn't sound like a very long period of time, but it is more than enough to get the job done. Doesn't mean you want to stop and take a break in the middle of it, but and it has no odor. This was the normal kind of a CA glue I'd be hacking and coughing and gagging and everything else right about now. But this stuff has 0 odor. As they would call it, low odor, because you can't say something has no odor, because there's always that person out there that would be able to smell it. Myself, I'm not one of them. I sucked enough dust down the pipes today that I'd be lucky to smell anything. But as you can see, there's certain places that we're pretty close to the saturation point because it's sitting on the surface now. Just giving it one last go around there and make sure that I don't have any dry spots. This is a 1-coat application and 1 coat only, because as you really can't, the camera won't pick it up, but as I said, it looks like it's sitting on the surface right now. If I tried to put a 2nd coat of this on after this sets up, That's exactly what it'll do. It'll sit on the surface because it doesn't know what to do when it can't soak in. Dry paper towel, doing the same process all over again, basically smearing it around, getting rid of any dry spots. And I'll flip my paper towel over carefully because I only have a glove on one hand. And we're going to get this thing pretty much dry. I'm getting all the excess off the surface. And how you know when you got enough of it off of the surface is it sort of turns dull. The shine sort of goes away and it becomes a little bit dull. As long as we don't have a huge amount laying on the surface, then we'll be okay. I don't know, that paper towel must put a little too much on. Better to put too much than not enough. Now it's starting to look dull, at least for me. The bright lights make it look like it's still shiny. It's also starting to set up. The paper towel there, that wet spot, my paper towel was starting to drag a little bit. If it gets to the point where it drags a lot, that's the time to let it alone. Even though it might cause you some extra work, it's better off to leave it alone than to try and get that last little bit of excess off of there. When it'll once it cures, it actually sands off very easily. Does a good job gumming up sandpaper, but it does sand off very easily. And that's it. That's the outside finished. I'm going to use a little bit of accelerator on it because I want to flip this around and do the inside. So I'm going to spin it nice and slow. I'm going to spray the accelerator down here, not up here where it's going to be possibly get sucked in behind it. One shot, that's all I'm going to use. I have humidity here, and that's really all you would need even if you didn't have humidity. It's just all I got to do is get the polymerization process started, and it'll take over from there. It is pretty dry to the touch right there, if I was to touch it, especially with a gloved hand. A non-gloved hand, there's moisture in your fingers, so it could possibly try and stick to it a little bit. We'll go back to the chuck that we used. We'll put the finish on the inside, and we will call that a day. Because I still have to go to the grocery store yet. A couple little things for my lunch tomorrow. This is kind of nice. It's really kind of nice when you leave the double tenant like that, or leave a tenant plus the foot. It doesn't always work that way, but when it does, it's kind of nice because of what we're doing right here. Doesn't have to go in there perfectly either. For some reason, it doesn't want to go in there. Why didn't it go in there? Doesn't really make a difference because we're going to do it by hand anyhow. So we can go back to there. Same process on the inside. Use your paper towel, a little piece of felt. Wrap it up in the paper towel. And we probably should have remember whether I wiped that out or not. Always best to get as much dust out as what I possibly can. This side will actually take less material, less of the glue than the other side, because the other side has been sealed, so the little tubes running through the wood now are full, or at least blocked up from the other side, so it can't pull it through. Just need to get all the little wormholes filled, which could cause me problems because they are a hole that probably goes the whole way through there. So they could possibly come out the other side. Hopefully not, but could. Like I say, it'll just cause me a little bit of sanding work, that's all. It's like the outside, we're looking for saturation. Like I say, the inside is, whichever side you do second, will take less material than the other side. Try not to run too much up over it. Once again, dry paper towel. And I know where I'm very good at missing some is right smack in the middle. So you'll see me go over that middle section a lot of times. And when you miss some in the very center, of course, that's probably the hardest. Wouldn't be so hard on this size of bowl and this sort of flatness of a bowl, but other shapes are not necessarily going to be so friendly to miss some in the middle. Like I say, it is sandable or even scrapable. If it's on a surface that's not quite so round, you can use a straight razor blade and use that as like a miniature cabinet scraper. And it'll take any of the little bumps and lumps off that may have set there. And then touch it up with a little bit of 800 sandpaper and give it a buff and be good to go. I think I'll go after it with one more paper towel. I see there's some streaks right there. Like I say, I'm trying to make sure I get it dried off. dry off the excess. Because really all we're after is what's soaked into it, into the wood. Really all we need. So as I spin it, I'm looking for places that are shiny. And I don't see any. For sort of a plain piece of wood, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of pleased with them. Just like the outside, we are going to hit the inside with a little activator. Hit it twice, about 18 inches or so away. I just want that light mist to land in there. I don't want to spray it up close and personal. That just makes all the more trouble you could have down the road. So that's pretty much a finished bowl. All I'll have left to do on that, like I say, it won't get done tomorrow. Maybe some other day this week. I'll use a vacuum chuck because I have one. If I didn't have one, I could take this bottom off with the same way that I cut this bead in, just on a jam chuck. I would just have a little bit more hand work to do than what I will have. But I'll grab it in the chuck, put it on the vacuum chuck, release the scroll chuck, and the vacuum chuck will hold it. And I'll take the rest of this off, sand it, and do all that good stuff to the bottom, finish it, and then it gets buff. The inside of them, I usually take and use some abrasive paste. And I have one that I did earlier that I'm going to use a little abrasive paste on the inside of it. You see what that looks like. The outside of this one hasn't been finished because the little bead at the bottom of the foot is not done yet. So I have to do that. And this one I'm not going to have I don't have two tenants on it, or a tenant plus the place for the bead. The tenant's going to become the bead on this one. This one was done earlier today. It's best to wait 24 hours. That way it's totally cured. But I can be a little impatient with it. But I work with this product all the time, so I understand sort of what to look for in things. So the abrasive paste, you follow their instructions. They want you to rub it around first. That way you don't fling it all over the place. So we'll just get a sort of a liberal amount of that in there. And then we'll give it a spin. A couple hundred RPMs. Thank you, sir. Kind of interesting stuff to work with in a way. I can hear it. It's kind of makes a little sound where there's places that are rough. I don't really want to get around the outside of that rim though, because that's not finished on that side. So when I lose the sound of the little train sound or scratching sound, then you know all the abrasive is gone pretty much in that piece. So then we can go to a clean paper towel again. And then we'll wipe off or start to wipe it off. Because this has what's it have in it? It has beeswax in it. So once you get rid of most of the abrasive part and the gooey part sort of, then you can pick up the speed and give it sort of a polish or a buff. And this is how you could do it if you don't have buffing wheels and wanted to use this product on something. This is another way of getting around buffing something. It's just to use these abrasive pastes. And there's nothing says that you can't do multiple coats of the abrasive paste. A lot of times there'll be some stuff that I will do multiple coats. I see I don't have it quite all off of there. Because when I touched it with my fingers, I could see that it sort of smeared it. So I'll go to one of the shop towels, which are a little bit softer than our normal paper towel, and we'll use that as our buffing towel. And that's done. The inside of that is done. I wouldn't have to do anything more to that at all. I probably will. I'll put a coat of carnauba wax on yet. That will get buffed on with a buffing wheel, but I really wouldn't have to. If you wanted more of a high shine, you could put a coat of wax on, like a microcrystalline wax or something like that, over top of that yet, if you wanted more of a shine. These are utilitarian kind of bowls, so there's not really a need to go super shiny. I mean, I want them to look good, but another glove bites the dust. Do go through a lot of them, but Harbor Freight seems to love to sell me gloves at half price. They had their, I guess they called it their Black Friday special or something or other. They were, what's the normal price? 11 something? $11.95 or something like that. They had them at $4.95. Something along those lines. I'm not even a member of their thing. I'm just on their email list. So I got another pack of 100 of them for $5. So that was all well and good. Other than that, that's pretty much, could go overhead so you can see what it looks like all polished up in the middle. That is what the other one will look like once we get once that cures on there. And like I say, I'll take that tenon off, sign my name to the bottom and what the wood is. That's pretty much all I put on them. These I could actually put a year on them, but wouldn't do me any good because there is one upstairs, the one that she picked out that she wants 5 of them. This one probably looks closer to the one upstairs, but like I say, I'm not necessarily the one to duplicate multiple things, especially when it comes to something like this. Smaller stuff, spindle type work, I can usually fumble through it, but my life doesn't evolve around being a production turner, so. Other than that, see if we can find. This is being broadcast on YouTube as well as Twitch. If you would be watching on YouTube, if you could hit that lovely little subscribe button, I would certainly appreciate it. Otherwise, we're here most Saturday evenings, 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern times, usually when I get started. And I usually do a project, usually. I can pretty much guarantee you that probably next Saturday evening we'll still be working on these because I have 3 of them. 1, 2. Yeah, it actually gives me 3 of the 4. I just have to figure out which wood I'm going to use for the 4th one. So, but at any rate, you have a good week. We're going to end the YouTube one because it wouldn't make sense if we can find somebody